Hello, dear friends and colleagues. Today, I'd like to talk about another confusing topic. This is renal channelopathy. I'd like to simplify this so that after watching this video, you can confidently answer the question. Okay. This topic also examiner lab must, and candidate don't like it. For that reason, it is less studied. I'd like to simplify. So there are three major channelopathy. One is Barter syndrome, Gettleman syndrome, and Liddle syndrome. With these three channelopathy, you have to remember uh, Cone syndrome, Gordon syndrome, and licorice intake. Just you probably you are thinking lot of syndrome you have to remember. Yes, but I'd like to simplify. Okay, so just remember it. All channelopathy cause hypokalemia. So it is easier to you that you will get hypokalemia, low potassium level. So uh, it is not a point of differentiation. Okay, so remember that hypokalemia will be there. If there is hyperkalemia, you have to think either it is Gordon syndrome or Cone syndrome. Okay, if hypokalemia, then you have to think licorice intake, Liddle syndrome, Barter syndrome, and Gettleman syndrome. What is licorice? Licorice actually plant extract. Usually it is taken for healing of peptic ulcer, but it can cause the similar symptoms of Liddle syndrome. Okay, so every channelopathy will have hypokalemia. So let us try to uh, memorize by letter L. L start in licorice and Liddle. L means low. So you have already got low potassium, but you have to remember here low aldosterone. L for low and aldosterone. So low aldosterone will be in the features of Liddle syndrome and licorice intake. Now, where you will find low aldosterone, just remember this channelopathy will have high blood pressure, that is hypertension. So in licorice, you will get low aldosterone, high blood pressure. In Liddle syndrome, also you will get low aldosterone, high blood pressure. So what are the criteria of Liddle syndrome? Low potassium, low aldosterone, high blood pressure. Okay. Other two, Barter syndrome and Gettleman syndrome. You just remember low potassium level, here aldosterone will be high in both cases. As aldosterone will be high, blood pressure will be either normal or low. Okay, so in case of any scenario you will get high blood pressure, you have to think either Liddle syndrome or licorice intake. Just take history. Another cause of hypertension and high aldosterone is Cone syndrome. So in Cone syndrome there will be hypertension. So there will be DD with Cone syndrome, Liddle syndrome. In Liddle syndrome there will be low aldosterone. With Cone syndrome there will be high aldosterone. Okay, so if high blood pressure, you just give DD3, licorice intake, Liddle syndrome, and Cone syndrome. But in case of Liddle syndrome and licorice, you will get low aldosterone and in case of Cone syndrome you will get high aldosterone. So you can differentiate here. Okay. Now Barter's and Gittleman, we saw that low potassium has a common role on all channelopathy, and here there will be high aldosterone. So Barter's and Gittleman both high aldosterone, but blood pressure will be normal. So if you make DD of high aldosterone, that is Gittleman, Barter's and Cone syndrome. So Cone syndrome, there will be high aldosterone but blood pressure will be high. So it is excluded by blood pressure. If blood pressure normal, there will be no Cone syndrome. So you have to think about Gittleman and Barter. So Gittleman and Barter both are similar. How will differentiate? In Barter syndrome, there will be hyperuricemia. Hypercalciuria. Calcium will be excreted more in the urine. And in Gittleman there will be hypocalciuria. Okay. Another thing you have to differentiate in Gittleman Barter's and Gittleman. In Barter syndrome, magnesium level will be normal, but in case of Gittleman, magnesium level will be low. So how will differentiate between Barter's and Gittleman? All will be similar, all common symptoms like low potassium level, normal blood pressure and high aldosterone. But the differentiating point is in Barter there will be hypercalciuria, in Gittleman there will be hypocalciuria. In Barter there will be magnesium normal or little low, but in case of Gittleman, hypomagnesemia will be there. So a differentiating point is hypomagnesemia and hypocalciuria in case in Gittleman. Okay. So if another symptoms is Gordon syndrome. It is opposite the Barter syndrome. There will be hyperkalemia. So you can exclude from the very beginning Gordon syndrome. If there is hyperkalemia, it is not Liddle syndrome or Barter syndrome or Gittleman syndrome or licorice intake. Okay. So Gordon syndrome is opposite Barter syndrome. It will be manifested by high potassium level. So now if I sometimes there is a question whether it is autosomal dominant or recessive. Okay, just remember it that Liddle syndrome is autosomal dominant. Barter syndrome and Gittleman syndrome is autosomal recessive. In France, there are 5 families got the successive evidence of autosomal dominant also in Gittleman syndrome. So in Gittleman syndrome there is confusion, but most of the cases actually autosomal recessive, but autosomal dominant can be also present. Liddle syndrome, it is actually autosomal dominant, Barter syndrome autosomal recessive. Liddle's and Barter's actually manifested in children. So now what channel defect actually occurs in that channelopathy, because in exam it will be asked. In a little just remember it, and where is the locations of the channel. Just now alphabetically you just remember it. B first, then G second, and L last in alphabetical chronology. So B come first. B will be the ascending loop of Henle, thick portions of ascending loop of Henle. and Gittleman, G come for letter B afterward. So Gittleman in the distal part of the distal convoluted tubules, in the distal convoluted tubules, and uh, Liddles in the collecting duct. So just from the proximal to distal and alphabetically, chronologically, if you think, then it will be easier to remember. B come first in the letter, so Barter's syndrome in the ascending loop of Henle thick portion. G come after B, so it will be in the distal convoluted tubules, and L come last in the alphabetical order, so it will come to the collecting duct. Now what channel actually involved? Again, if you just remember like this, sodium potassium chloride, three ion related channel. Sodium potassium chloride B, that means Barter syndrome, it is present in the ascending loop of thick company. Then sodium chloride channel G, just deduct one potassium, deducted potassium. So here three ion related, the two ion related. So sodium and chloride channel, co-transporter. And last one, again deduct one, only sodium channel. So it is epithelial sodium channel. So first one, Barter syndrome, sodium potassium chloride channel. It is a thick portion of the ascending loop of Henle. Gittleman syndrome in the sodium and potassium, sodium and chloride co-transporter channel. It is the distal convoluted tubules. And Liddle syndrome in the collecting duct, epithelial sodium channel. Okay. Now, just if you correlate another thing, you just remember that loop diuretics, furosemide work like Barter syndrome. Thiazide work like Gittleman syndrome, and amiloride work like Liddle syndrome. Okay, so I think if you remember by this way, I think you will able to distinguish whether it is Liddle, Barter, or Gittleman syndrome, whether it is Cohn's syndrome or Gordon syndrome or Licorice index. So I think if you, again I'd like to probably summarize, then it will be helpful for you. So all channelopathy associated with hypokalemia, if you find hyperkalemia, you have to think either Gordon syndrome, not channelopathy, other channelopathy. All that's L for low aldosterone, so high blood pressure, it is Licorice index and Liddle syndrome. But if there is high aldosterone and high blood pressure, it is Cohn syndrome. Barter syndrome and Gittleman syndrome all are similar, except Barter syndrome is associated with hypercalciuria and magnesium level normal or little low, and Gittleman syndrome is associated with hypocalciuria and hypomagnesemia. Liddle syndrome is associated with, this is protein related, so it is autosomal dominant, and Barter's and Gittleman syndrome is enzyme related, so it is autosomal recessive. But in Gittleman syndrome in France, there are some 5 families, so there is autosomal dominant association. If blood pressure high, you have to think Liddle or Cohn's. If blood pressure normal or low, you have to think Barter's and Gittleman syndrome. Where blood pressure high and aldosterone low, it is Liddle or Licorice. Where blood pressure low or normal, aldosterone high, it is BARTER'S or Gentleman. If blood pressure high and aldosterone high, it is Cons. If there is hyperkalemia, it is Gordon. Gordon is opposite to BARTER'S. So I think you will be able to differentiate between all the channelopathy. Thank you very much. You have to take the help one post about channelopathy in RoyalMed, and just correlate with this video. I think you'll be able to just subscribe my channel, and I'll be again with you another topic which is confusing and examiner life most. Thank you very much.